Hi, and welcome to another episode of In Bed with Will. And as you may have guessed, I'm Will, and you're in bed with me today. I want to speak about something today which has always really meant a lot to me, not only in terms of sentiment, but practically. I want to talk about education. Do you remember your first day at school? I do. I remember it as if it were yesterday. My teacher's name was Miss McGillifrey. The school was grade junior in Port Elizabeth. And I was just a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed little youngster of, I think, 7 years old, perhaps. And yeah, it was exciting. It was a day of wonder. It was a day of singing songs, sitting on a carpet. I remember the teacher's guitar looking larger than life. It was one of those days that get imprinted on your brain, consciousness, whatever, that you carry with you for the rest of your life. And amazingly, it can actually affect how you view education for the rest of your life. I've been very fortunate in that I've received a very good education in my life. And I know many are not so lucky. I can remember my first day of Standard 2. That would be the 4th grade. And sitting down to what was presented as your big school subjects. The first of these we had was history. And we were presented with a character from history by the name of Marco Polo. And how he and his uncle had traveled to China, and how they'd had all these adventures, and how they had impacted the way we see the world today. He'd met Kublai Khan, they'd done dealings, he went back with spices. It's a story that you can turn into a fairy tale. It was amazing. It inspires me even to this day. And not giving away my age, that was a while ago. So, let's fast forward to where we find ourselves today in South Africa. I did a little bit of homework. So I went and had a look and tried to establish for myself where we are in South Africa at this present moment in terms of our education and how we are impacting young minds in this country. You might have noticed that today I'm wearing my reading glasses, and this is because today I'm going to read off a screen so that no one can tell me that I was thumb sucking this stuff. This stuff, I went and looked it up, and wow, have a listen to this. Okay, so in January of this year, 2019, Professor Mary Metcalf gave a talk at UCT where she said a few things, one of which was that 78% of South African children in grade 3 still cannot read for meaning. That is roughly 8 kids out of 10. Okay. In 2018, our government spent about 351 billion rand on education. That's a billion with a big B. In dollar terms, that's around 20 billion plus. Roughly 15 to the rand. Yet only 29% of our poorest schools have got an in-school library. Huh? How? I don't get it. No. But it gets more interesting than that. A TIM study showed that 65% of grade 5 pupils in our country cannot add or subtract whole numbers. 65%, roughly 2/3. In South Africa, we've got a dropout rate which is tantamount to a national crisis. Approximately 60% of first graders will ultimately drop out rather than complete the 12th grade. By grade 12, only 52% of the age-appropriate population remain enrolled for education. And this is from the Department of Education. This is our own educational department saying these things. Now, before you sort of think that maybe this has got to do with, well, maybe things are hard, maybe it's tough, maybe it's very difficult to pass school in South Africa. Well, have a listen to this. So, it's been put out there in 2018 that we have got a 30% pass mark. And while that is pretty shocking, it's not entirely true. So let me clarify. In order to pass grade 12 in South Africa, you need to pass at 50% for one language at a home language level. Okay? 40% or more in your second official language at a first language level. You need to get 40% or more in mathematics, and then you need to get 40% or more in any three other required subjects, such as science, life orientation, social science, art and culture, or economic management sciences. Now, when I was at school, our subjects were known by different names, but I think hearing this, you get the picture. Okay? Our department wasn't satisfied with that though, and subsequently has pushed to change this to be 40% in 4 subjects, one of which is a home language, and any 3 subjects at 30%. Listen to this one. A condonation, I don't even know what that word means, of 2% in one subject will be adequate if it will lead to a pass. You might be shaking your head right now, because my eyes were huge and I could not believe the words on the page. But there's a reason for all this, and I'll get to that. Okay? But asking yourself the question, where are we compared to the rest of the world? Now, South Africa does not operate in a vacuum. We are part of the global community, and we have to compare ourselves thus to the global community. Now, generally speaking, a standard pass around the world can be divided into 3 main groups. Your first group is around 50%, which is in countries like Australia, Canada, and a lot of Europe. The barrier between the pass and a fail in South African universities is the same. Now, how do you prepare someone for a pass mark that is almost double what they're going to encounter at tertiary level? I don't understand this. Maybe you can tell me in the comments. Maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're someone who set this thing in motion, maybe you are Angie Macheka. Either way, I'd like to hear about this. But, moving on. There is then 2 other thresholds around the world where on either side they make up barriers for passing. There's a fail rate at 40%. These are countries like Japan, New Zealand, Ireland, and the UK. And then there is a pass rate as seen in the US, the Netherlands, China, and Morocco, funnily enough, and that is set at 60%. So, where do we fit into the whole scheme of things? Well, I'll tell you. As a South African, the current pass barrier of 30% is comparable only to Myanmar, the country formerly known as Burma. We are at the bottom of the pile, people, and our Department of Education seems to think that we are still too tough on our kids. But wait, there is more. So, the reasons for all of this. Our country is sitting with a problem of unemployability in the jobs market, which means that with the dropout rate being what it is, kids are dropping out at a point in their education where they have absolutely no employable skills. And in an effort to try and keep kids in school, wait for it, Angie Motshekga, our education minister, bless her heart, came out and said this just the other day. They want to create a new exit point in our secondary education system at grade 9 level. This is the old standard 7. So they will be telling kids of 15 years old, it is okay, you have learned enough at school, you can now go and look for a job. Huh? But it gets better. They want to put into practice between 2019 and 2024 medium-term strategies which include the decolonization of basic education through the teaching and promotion of African languages, South African history, and African history, among other things. Okay, now, someone needs to please explain to me, because I must be very stupid, what it means to decolonize education. A feeling of self-worth within an individual does not come by telling them stories that your grandparents told you around a fire. It comes from giving facts and allowing the child to assimilate those facts as part of their reality, the world that they live in. Are we going to reinvent the wheel? Are we going to find a new way to split the atom? If you want to teach a child in high school about the past, get them reading historical fiction. It is engaging, but it instills on them a sense of being in that it will put across what came before in such a way as to not only entertain but to educate. Cry the Beloved Country. Story of an African Farm. The Long Walk to Freedom. Okay, that's a biography, but still. You want to teach someone about Madiba, why not just use his own words? The best book I ever came across in terms of African history was something written by a man by the name of James A. Michener called The Covenant. It is a book which tells the story of Africa, Southern Africa, for the last 15,000 years, culminating with the Boer War. Pretty decent place to end that little narrative and carry on with what needs to be told in terms of apartheid and apart from, well, in terms of our legacy, the stuff that we would necessarily expect kids in South Africa to want to know about and to have a appreciation for. But then after that, come on people, then we start teaching them in words where you speak in terms of the people who came up with this stuff. When Oppenheimer, when they were busy with the Manhattan Project, akwazi ukuthetha isiXhosa. Ndiyathanda isiXhosa kodwa akwazi. Oppenheimer was an American. So speak about it in terms of an American narrative as per the people that did it. I'm not going to try and recount Einstein's German, but really, are we going to start teaching about theory of relativity in an African, I don't even know how to put that. We are not the people who came up with it. Let's not try to be. We offer so many other things that are of value, that we can claim as our own. Why must we try and replace that which came before? I don't get it. But okay, moving right along. I have got an incredible appreciation for Francois Pienaar, our rugby captain of '95. Yes, he was a good rugby player and we all appreciate what he did on the field. But he created or established or founded, whatever you want to call it, a little thing called the MAD Foundation. It's an acronym which stands for Make a Difference. It's a foundation set up to educate young people. And I am so behind that. I've had the privilege of teaching people I've known, friends, kids, in all sorts of subjects to whatever end. It is the one thing that you can give someone that no one can take away. Because ultimately, school is about more than just facts and figures. It teaches you how to think for yourself. It gives you a foundation on which to build not only your professional career, although that is important, but your life as a person, what you value, your value system. Our, what should I call it, education system today is broken, totally and utterly. Kids today don't learn about respect or how to learn discipline or how to function within a group of people and know where you are in that group. Kids today are taught that they are little emperors, that you can't say boo to a goose to them because it violates their rights. Now, I'm sorry, but rights are earned. Respect is earned. You want my respect? Earn it. In closing, I want to say this to you. If you are a teacher or a principal at a school doing the best you can, I just want to say thank you. I salute you. You are my hero. You've been placed in a very difficult situation by a government that is more interested in politicizing our youth than educating them. And to you, those who are in government, I say this. You need to get your heads out of your proverbials and do better. Because this is a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And when the torches and the pitchforks arrive at the gates of the union buildings, don't say that you weren't warned. Don't say that no one told you. The let them eat cake approach, those days are done. So I'm just saying this, from one concerned citizen, please, do better. If you're watching this, don't forget to subscribe and like, and if you want to hear more, just click on that little bell. You'll hear every time I want to have a rant or event or anything like that. But in the meantime, wherever you are in the world, be safe.